some tools and some skills that will be able to help you to, well, that's interesting. Now it's not letting me do it.
I might have messed it up by hitting the record button. You might have to unshare and then share again.
Okay, let me take it down then. And then, oh, there it is. Okay, so this is me, Pete Martin. It's the only person who actually calls me Peter is my mom and one of the parishioners at St. Andrews. Everyone else calls me Pete. In fact, when I'm ordained in October, I think that's when I'm being named in the ordination. So, and there's a alphabet soup next to my name there that if you want to know more about that, we can talk about it later. So this de-escalation training derived from a Air Force colonel by the name of John Boyd. And it was originally designed for operational preparation during war. But what happened was the police in New Zealand used it and they modified it to work with situations with individuals who were struggling to maintain control and how law enforcement could help them. Now, before you get the wrong idea, you're not going to learn law enforcement here. That's not what this is about. It's about learning tools and skills to help you to help individuals who are struggling with their own emotions, who are acting out, who are struggling. And so this is a result of a revamping of what was a U.S. military training into something that you and I can use to help these individuals who are struggling. Okay. The agenda this evening, what it is de-escalation. It's a disagreement that's gone wrong. The most important rule, if you're writing notes, this is the one note that you want to write down. The OODA loop, which I will explain. Effective verbal de-escalation techniques. 7 steps and 1 trick for more effective conflict de-escalation and resolution. Danger signs to look for. This is when you are with someone who is not only is not going to be de-escalated, they're actually ramping up. They're becoming more angry. They're becoming more frustrated. What do you do in those situations? And then we'll have a Q&A afterwards.
Okay. Pete, this is Alan. We're seeing your first slide, the title slide. Are you on a different slide?
I am on a different slide.
So we're seeing it not in slideshow view.
Okay. Oh, hold on. It says your screen sharing is paused. Yeah. And I don't know why it's saying that.
Well, try unpausing.
Yeah, Pete, you might unshare it and then share again. Or
okay, let me stop share here.
Yeah. There you go.
Okay, and then let me try this again. Okay, so I will move the screen. Let me know if you see it.
We're not seeing your screen at all.
Okay. Hold on.
Sometimes
I've had this problem
that.
too teaching, and something about Zoom and PowerPoints often don't get along. If you can't fix it, you could try saving it as a PDF. And PDF
Okay, now it says that I'm screen sharing.
Yeah,
we can see it.
we can see it.
Okay.
Slideshow.
So now, put it into presentation. There you go.
Okay.
There you go.
That's
good
good.
job.
All right, let's see if this worked.
Yep, it worked.
All right.
Okay.
It's me and technology, folks, just so you know. Okay.
That's good.
But like Julian said, it happens to the best of us, so don't.
Well, it's I mean, the nice part about this is that I am presenting this to people who are already predisposed towards forgiveness. So so thank you very much. All right, that's the agenda. Okay, what is de-escalation? De-escalation refers to behavior that is intended to escape escalations of conflicts. It may also refer to approaches in conflict resolution. Escalations in disagreements are often difficult to keep from spiraling out of control without specific measures being taken. Conflict can occur when there is disagreement between two parties. This disagreement can lead to frustration, which if not resolved can become aggression, violence, or other form of irrational behavior. It's a downward spiral, but it's what you're hopefully going to learn this evening is how to catch it before it becomes a downward spiral. Did you like that? That'll be the only special effect you will see tonight, so I hope you enjoyed it. All right, here it is, the most important rule. You are in charge of your own reaction. What do I mean when I say that?
Is that a rhetorical question?
No, it's totally practical.
So somebody started to answer there.
Yeah, it's me, Carolyn. I think this is the sort of the parenting thing I learned through the years. I can't control somebody else's reaction. I can only figure out how I'm going to react in order to either jack them up or not jack them up.
Exactly.
Or to bring them down.
Right.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, it's what you learn if you've ever learned conflict resolution. If you've ever attended a class or a seminar in that, they refer to the escalation model, which means that you are in a conversation with somebody. They say something that annoys you, it bothers you. You can either escalate it and make it worse, or you can stay where you are, in which case it won't go further than that. But there's this escalation that happens if you allow it to happen. And so you are in charge of the way you react in a situation, especially a situation when the person in front of you is struggling with their own emotions. Aggression can occur from frustration, either because they want something that they cannot have, they're upset with another person, or they want to do something that goes against the rules. We need to identify and act on conflict within a very short period of time. And it basically comes down to this: should I react or should I respond? What is the difference between reacting and responding?
Thinking.
What did you say, Alan?
I said thinking.
Yeah, I think
Yeah. Intention.
Yeah.
Being mindful.
Yeah. Good.
And you have to know that the person in front of you can listen. Whether, if they're so jacked up that they can't listen.
Mm-hmm. Right. It's like any interaction. Both individuals have to be hearing what the other one is saying.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to explain a little about reaction versus responding. I promise it's only 3 slides. I'm not going to get really into this, but it's worth learning. You have this walnut shaped part of your brain. It's about that big around. It's called your amygdala. And your amygdala is responsible for assessing threats. It's in the inside of your what's called your primal brain, which is in the middle, way deep in your brain. And it is there to assess threat. And if it feels that there is a threat, it releases a hormone called cortisol, which is also referred to as the stress hormone. Now, if you are in a true life or death situation, cortisol is exactly what you want, because it's going to make you stronger, it's going to make you faster, it's going to make you more alert, it's going to make you think quicker, but it's also going to make you react immediately. Okay, so the problem comes when our amygdala overrides the area of our brain that is responsible for logic, judgment, and reasoning. And that's called amygdala hijacking. And this is how the amygdala hijacking happens. The stimuli, this is the event, goes directly to the thalamus, which goes right to the amygdala before it goes to the area of your brain that is responsible for logic, judgment, and reasoning. So your amygdala will be activated if it feels that the threat level is high enough. Mm-hmm. And what it does, it effectively turns off the logical part of your brain. Because when you're in a true fight or flight situation, that individual who is threatening your life, you're not going to reason with them, right? So it's your brain activates strictly on reaction. And that is what the amygdala is about. But you have another part of your brain, and that's called the prefrontal cortex. That's in the front part of your brain. And it is responsible for logic, judgment, empathy, and reason. When we are working with individuals who are struggling, this is what we want to activate, not the amygdala. We want to be driven by this rather than our amygdala. Does anybody have any questions about that? Okay. By the way, the reason why we often seem to get angry quicker than using our logic, judgment, and reasoning is that our amygdala runs at about 10 times the speed that our prefrontal cortex runs. So it's really easy for the amygdala to hijack your prefrontal cortex to where you're reacting rather than responding. Okay.
I have to believe that there are techniques, and I guess you're going to probably talk about them, but to recognize what's going on, to be able to not let that happen.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You are right on track. We are moving in that direction. And that is the OODA loop. The first thing we're going to do, we're going to observe, we're going to orient, we're going to decide, and then we're going to act. And I will explain each one of these. Observe is observing all aspects of the conflict. You are seeing two men who are raising their voices at one another. And you're seeing that they aren't hostile yet, but they're moving in that direction. Okay. Orient means that based on your upbringing, the way you were raised, and how to deal with conflict or not deal with conflict, your experience. Maybe you know one of these guys and you're like, hey, maybe I can pull him aside and say, hey, calm down. What's wrong? You know, what's going on? That would be orienting. And orienting is about taking your cultural values, your training, your experience, and your knowledge, and putting it all together to decide what is the best course of action. What do I need to do? These two guys don't seem to be able to settle it amongst themselves. What is the best course of action? And then you act. And this is the most important thing, and that is, you're not always going to get it right the first time. You might need to, if you have acted and you realize it's not working, you might need to step back and reobserve and reorient and say, okay, that didn't work. Let's try this. And so you return to the loop until you see them de-escalating. No, let's stay here for a minute. Does anyone have any questions about this?
Well, I'm thinking that in the Orient piece, it's also would be important to take into account, you said your own familial background and culture, but to be aware of that there might be different culture and operation in what you're observing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. If you know that one of these men has a long history of having explosive anger, then clearly that's a higher threat level, so to speak, than two guys who are upset over who are say they know one another, they're friends, and they're just blowing off some steam. Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's not only knowing yourself, but observing the people that you are watching who are struggling, because this can be the hardest thing to do. And the reason for that is that as they are escalating people are looking at you and saying, what are you going to do? You have to solve it right now, you know, and it's if you, what is likely is if you rush right into it, what's going to happen? You're going to be running on your amygdala rather than your prefrontal cortex. And rather than using logic, judgment, and reasoning, you're going to be having a high level of stress, which is going to negatively impact your ability to de-escalate that problem. So it's about coming up with a plan, coming up with a strategy. Okay, he said this. Maybe I can get between them or pull one of them aside and say, you know, I understand what you're saying. I agree with what you're saying. And I'll get more into this later, but it's really hard for somebody to be mad at you if you're agreeing with them. So if you can find some area of agreement with that individual, you are far more likely to have a good resolution to the problem. But it might be pulling one guy aside and just saying, excuse me, I need to talk to you. So that's one scenario. There are hundreds of scenarios out there. Does anyone else have any questions about this?
Yeah, this is Alan, Pete. The Orient phase there, the example that you originally gave of pulling one of them aside and saying, hey, can I talk to you a minute here? That's really the act, right? You went through the process. You observed what was going on.
Yes.
The orientation is something that is not you necessarily orienting one of the person. It's you orienting yourself based on all of the information that you've observed, including your own experience, cultural background, etc. Exactly.
Okay. No, the actual walking up there and grabbing the guy by the elbow and saying, hey, I need to speak with you, that would be the action. You're right.
Yeah. Okay.
But I think in the Orient section, and I think maybe you were inferring this, but you know, I would imagine there's a lot of cultural differences come into play too, right?
Absolutely.
Not only your own cultural situation, but that of who you're observing.
Absolutely. It's John Boyd said that the Orient was the most important of the four because it influences all the others.
Yeah. And it's the most difficult, I would assume.
Yeah.
Pete, this is Carolyn.
Yes.
I'm assuming that if you go in there and you don't do this right, you could have both parties turn on you and you become the person that they they put their anger on you instead of de-escalating. You could end up in the middle of this and all hell could break loose.
Well, it's what you want to do. Let's say that happens. Let's say that you say to the guy, hey, I need to talk to you for a minute. And now he turns on you and now he's yelling at you and the other guy's yelling at you. It's okay to walk away. In fact, that's exactly what you should do, is walk away. And surprisingly, that might be the very thing that allows them to de-escalate, is because they rather than yelling at one another, they yelled at you instead. I'm not saying that's a good thing, but it's I've actually seen this happen where I went and I saw these guys yelling. I went up to them and I said, hey, what's going on? And they went off on me. And then I'm like, okay, I'm out of here. And I turn around, I look, and one of them's offering the other a cigarette. So, I mean,
and they have found something to agree on.
Yes, exactly.
Pete, this is Gigi. We've been talking about like intervening in a third party situation where you're not actively involved, but it often happens where you're the target. So it's somebody trying to engage you, trying to escalate something with you
right.
personally, that not a third party that's involved, that you are trying to intervene. And so I would imagine that's even more difficult to step back before that amygdala, because now you're the one being perceived as your amygdala perceiving you as being threatened. You really have to take control and step back.
Right. No, you're absolutely right. And I'm going to get more into this as to tools that you can use when that happens. But it's the worst thing you can do is get in their face or raise your voice at them. It's very important that you're running on your prefrontal cortex rather than your amygdala. So effective verbal de-escalation techniques are a true art form. The most important thing to remember during a conflict, and this goes back to what Gigi mentioned, it's not about you. So don't make it about you. I say this all the time. It's in the example Gigi gave, where somebody was yelling at her, it wouldn't matter if it was Gigi, Carolyn, Alan, me. I mean, it wouldn't matter. They're upset, they're frustrated, and they want to yell. And it could be you, it could be a cardboard cutout. I mean, it doesn't matter. They want to vent. So don't make it about you. Monitor your breathing and your heart rate and your muscle tension. There's a thing you can do, and I do this with clients. And what it is, it's a body scan. And what a body scan is, you begin with your neck and go, or actually your facial muscles, and you go all the way down, and you're looking for tension, any tension in your body. If you've done yoga, you already know about this, but it's about relaxing those muscles that are holding that tension inside, so that you're not getting stressed, so that your breathing is normal, being able to monitor your breathing so that it's not your breathing is not rapid and shallow. Okay. So and yeah, it's an art form. It's also a practice. It's like yoga, it's a practice. Learning to I would recommend all of you right now learn how to do a body scan of your body. Learn where you collect stress. There are usually, with most all of us, there is some part of our body where we collect stress. I know for me, it's always in my shoulders, always. If you ever see me walking around and my shoulders are up around my ears, tell me, Pete, you're stressed. Do a body scan. I will be forever grateful. But yeah, it's and learn how to do that, so that before you walk into that situation where you're having to speak to someone who is upset, you are calm enough to where you're not running on your amygdala. All right. Now, here are the skills that I mentioned in the beginning. Say the name of the person with whom you are speaking to and use it often. When you do this, you're not, that person no longer feels like they are a homeless person. They're now John or Mary. That will take the edge off their anger. That will often take the edge off their anger. Using active listening. We all know it's a lot of us know what active listening is. Active listening is about not only hearing what the individual is saying, but letting them know that you are listening to what they're saying. And it's the easiest way to do this is to repeat back what they say. For example, someone says, "I'm really upset because they promised us hash browns and we didn't get hash browns." Okay, and so you would say, "So I want to make sure I'm understanding you correctly. You're saying you're upset because you didn't get hash browns this morning." That would be one way of letting them know that you are listening to what they're saying. And with this population, that means a lot. Because these are people who go days without being heard. Slow down and resist judgment, which is another thing. When you are speaking to them, slow down the rate of your voice. Talk slower to them. If you are speaking in a rapid fire voice, that might even stress them out. That might even make them worse. So slow down, talk slowly. I don't have a problem with that because I talk slowly anyway, but just slow down the rate of your voice.
So
get them, yes.
Something that's related to this that I've found to be helpful is it's not only slow down, but quiet down.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Because a big booming voice is way scarier than a softer voice.
Absolutely. No, thank you. Thank you. That is huge. It's hugely important is not only slow down your voice, but also speak in a calm tone of voice. Get them to say yes. What do I mean by that? It's let's use the above example. The person wanted hash browns, but hash browns weren't on the menu that morning. One way to help them is to say, "Let me see if there are any hash browns there, but if they're not there, you'll still be okay with what's being offered, right?" Or something to that effect. So, because the idea is once they say yes, okay, fine. Then a lot of the anger goes out with that word. If you can get them to say yes. Never use cliches. We know that, of course. Show empathy. Strive to be consistently courteous, which I know we all do this. I haven't seen anybody go off on any of our people on Saturdays. Okay, one more trick.
Pete?
Yes.
Sorry, a dumb question, but I know what cliches are. I'm having a little trouble relating that to the conflict situation. So give an example of things that I should avoid in kinds of cliches in this?
Cliche would be something like calm yourself down. Anything that comes off as you're somehow superior to them because you're being logical and calm and they're off the rails. It's anything that demeans them.
Like saying life isn't fair.
Yes, exactly. Why were you expecting hash browns or something to that effect?
Or just get over it, or
get over it. Yeah.
I expect more from you.
Yeah.
Yes. That's another one.
Yes.
Okay. So this is my trick that I learned on my own. Actually, it's working with the homeless population when they were really at a point of wanting to end their lives. I found that this worked really, really well. And it's this: when all else fails, you've changed the environment. What do I mean by that? I mean, if you are indoors, you take them outdoors. If you're outdoors, you walk them around the block. It's you change their environment. And it really does work. I've seen this work where people who had come to me with suicidal ideations were able to, I'm not going to say be okay, but they no longer felt the need to end their lives. And so when people are dysregulated, a part of them wants help. And if you can just say, hey, let's go for a walk, let's walk around the block or let's walk down the street. Or if you're outdoors, you can say, hey, let's go to my office or whatever. It's just a change of scenery can make all the difference. Okay. So now we have the experiential part of the class. Okay. Take a moment right now and ask these questions of yourself. What am I seeing? What am I hearing? What am I smelling? And how am I feeling? Take a moment to reflect on that. Okay. And now I want you all to turn off your mic, turn off your video, get up, step outside, we'll say for 3 minutes, and then ask yourself those same questions. And then please come back to class. Don't run off. So I'll see you all in 3 minutes. Hey, baby boy. Hey, baby boy. Hey. Don't you be going anywhere. Huh? Don't you be going anywhere. What are you thinking? Huh? Okay, so did you notice a difference when you were outside as opposed to earlier when you were inside?
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we have a owl in our backyard, and he was hooting up a storm. So that but yeah, it's this is, we can use this to help our people, because when you change your environment, you reset your brain.
So true. Yeah.
This is an autonomic response, and what that means is that your body resets your brain when you change your environment, because it's based on new information from your senses to your brain. You are seeing new things, you're hearing new things, you're smelling new things, and that makes your body reset, or I'm sorry, that makes your brain reset. Did anybody not have that reaction? Okay. All right. So these are the danger signs to look for if you have somebody who is getting worse rather than better. They are clenching their fists, tightening their jaw, sudden change in body language or tone used during the conversation. They start escalating. They start raising their voice. They start yelling, or now they're talking faster than they were before. The individual starts pacing or fidgeting. They have this energy that they need to let go of. Change in eye contact. This is the individual who is staring holes through you. The individual suddenly stops talking, and they refuse to look at you. And then there's the rooster stance, which is the chest protruding out. The arms are more away from the body. That is a aggressive stance. If you see this, you need to back away. You need to go back to observing. Because whatever you're doing is not working in that moment.
I have a question on that. So you say back away.
Yes.
It's literally backing away. Do you actually say, I'm going to go, go over here and sit on the bench for a little while? Or like, how would you handle the actual situation?
What I typically say is, can you hold on for a moment? I'll be right back.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's do exactly that. Go away, observe a little while longer, go through the loop again. And then when you feel like you have a new strategy that might work, then re-engage.
Great.
Okay. Yeah, just say, hold on a second, I'll be right back.
Yeah.
Okay. What to do in a dangerous situation. If you feel in genuine danger, this is you really sense that the individual is going to attack, or that the attack is imminent. View your surroundings for escape routes. Extract yourself from the discussion. Again, just saying, hold on a second, I'll be right back. Get help, contact law enforcement. This is definitely not the time to play the hero. What I would suggest in our environment is that if you are going to engage in an ongoing argument with two residents, that two of you go. And one of you is the leader. One of you is the one that actually speaks to the individual or the individuals, if you're going to speak to them together. And the other one is there to observe. And the second one who is observing is able to say to the first one, hey, we need to go work on something. If the threat level has gone up, oftentimes the first person is not aware of it. And that's where the second person is able to step in and say, hey, we'll be right back. Okay. So yeah, I would not go into that situation alone.
So it seems like, Pete, you might want, one of your strategies might be, hold on, if it's a person who is trying to engage you and trying to get you spun up, and hold on, I'll be back in a second, and you grab your buddy and say, come with me. That might be a strategy that,
Sure.
Can you come back with me?
Yeah, and this second individual is able to look at the first person and get them to disengage, because the second person sees the first person getting upset. It works that way too. So yeah, that would be another reason to have two people. So, it
would be a good idea too, I guess, for the O part of observe. So for instance, this can happen really quickly, right? So when a person is in the situation and they're observing, I think from a volunteer standpoint, it would be good for everyone in general to, be able to assess the situation. And if they see something escalating, to, instead of having to, one who's already in the action, for someone to come in and help to now make it, a 2 versus 2 versus the 1 versus 2.
Sure. Yeah, the idea is you want to have, you want to make it to where the individuals are able to resolve whatever they need to resolve without feeling intimidated by the volunteers. I mean, if there are like 20 volunteers surrounding them, they're going to feel intimidated. But you want to have a second individual there to sort of observe everything that's going on. And there might be an instance where the first person, what their strategy was didn't work. And so these individuals are yelling at one another. The second person, if they have another strategy, they can then offer that at that time. And so the idea is that if you have two people, it's also more secure rather than you going by yourself, trying to, I mean, you've got two large men that are yelling at one another. You know, it's the last thing I would say to, you know, Gigi was go settle that problem, Gigi. You know, it's no, go settle
Thanks,
it by
Pete.
yourself.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't want to do that by myself. So yeah, it's you feel more secure when there's somebody with you as well. That's the other thing. So the person, then this is worth remembering, the person in front of you is struggling and needs your help to regain control. Very few people want to be out of control. If you can remain calm and do not take what they say personally, use the OODA loop, actively listen, show empathy, show them respect and courtesy, you will diffuse the vast majority of conflicts that you are confronted with.